Hi there, and welcome to the Somewhere Between Here and Healing podcast. I'm Viv, your host and fellow traveler on this journey of navigating life after growing up with a narcissistic parent. Together, we'll explore the messy, the funny, and the downright unbelievable stories of family, life, and self discovery. Please let it be known I am not a therapist nor claim to be an expert in any way. I am simply someone who's been through it, still figuring things out, and I'm here to share my story with you. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get this thing started. Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, good morning, whenever you're listening, wherever you're listening. First off, I want to say thank you for your patience recently. I've been a bit under the weather, and my voice still sounds like a haunted voicemail. But hey, that's life. Unpredictable, messy, and still rolling whether we're ready or not. So here I am, croaky but caffeinated, because this topic has been sitting heavy on my heart lately, and it's just too important to wait any longer. On today's episode, I'm talking about what could be saved, what could be said if we just spoke up. There are so many moments in life where a few honest words could change everything. A conversation that might have brought clarity, a truth that could have healed a wound, a boundary that might have saved us from years of pain. And yet, somehow, often we stay silent. We swallow the lump in our throat. We talk ourselves out of confrontation. We tell ourselves now is not the right time or that those words won't really make a difference. We fear being misunderstood, dismissed, retaliated against. So we retreat inward, even as something inside us begs to be heard. The truth has a way of lingering. It doesn't just disappear because we choose not to say it. It turns into tension in our bodies, restlessness in our minds, and heartbreak in our relationships. Silence might feel like the safer choice, but it often comes at a devastating cost: our peace, our clarity, our sense of self. If you've ever found yourself in an emotionally abusive or narcissistic relationship, you probably know this kind of silence all too well. It isn't just about avoiding awkward conversations, it's about survival. When someone uses manipulation, gaslighting, or explosive reactions to control the emotional climate, you quickly learn that speaking up comes with consequences. So you adapt. You minimize your needs. You question your instincts. You keep the peace by keeping quiet. And eventually, you'll stop trusting your own voice. This silence becomes a kind of armor. It keeps the day smooth, the water calm, the storm at bay. But over time, it does something else too. It erodes you. You begin to lose track of what you really think or feel. You wonder if your truth even matters. You forget what it's like to say something without fear. And that's the quiet tragedy of survival silence. It keeps you safe in the moment, but it steals your clarity and self trust in the long run. The longer you go without using your voice, the harder it is to find it again. Now, there's a lie that many of us have been taught that not saying anything is somehow noble, that staying quiet is mature, kind, or often necessary to keep certain relationships intact. And yes, there's wisdom in choosing your battles. But when silence becomes a habit of self erasure, it is no longer peacekeeping, it is self abandonment. We tell ourselves that by not saying the hard thing, we're protecting the other person, we're avoiding the drama, that we're being the quote, bigger person. But what we're really doing is postponing the fallout. And in the meantime, resentment simmers, confusion festers, Needs go unmet, and truth gets buried. False peace feels better in the moment, but it's never sustainable. It turns into emotional landmines, sudden explosions over things that were never addressed. And when the truth finally comes out, it's often too late or too heavy with accumulated hurt. The real peace, the kind that actually lasts, only comes when both people are willing to face discomfort with honesty. When truth is spoken with the intention of understanding, not control. There is something undeniably powerful about saying the thing you've been holding in, not for revenge, not to hurt, but to simply name your truth. Even when it is messy, even when it trembles, even when it's followed by a long, aching silence. There's a shift that happens when you speak the words aloud. Something inside you unlocks. What was once bottled up, churning, becomes real and clear. Saying it gives it form, and in doing so, gives you your power back. It reminds you that your voice matters, your experience is valid, and your truth deserves to exist in the light. Not every truth will be received well. Not every conversation will lead to healing, but that doesn't make it pointless. Sometimes saying the thing is not about fixing anything, it's about freeing yourself. You say it because it's yours, because you lived it, because you're ready to stop twisting yourself into knots to protect someone else from your reality. And sometimes saying the truth opens a door to understanding, to repair, to something you didn't expect. But none of that can happen while everything is hidden in the dark. Truth telling is not a weapon, it's a responsibility. It asks you to be brave enough to own your thoughts, your feelings, your perspective. But it also asks for integrity. It's not just about calling others out, it's also about calling yourself in. When you speak your truth, you also have to be willing to examine your part, your patterns, your silence, the moments you didn't show up for yourself or for someone else. That's what makes truth powerful when it's paired with self awareness. But truth also demands something of the person on the receiving end. It invites them to be accountable too, to face what they may have done, how they may have harmed, or how they've contributed to the rupture. And this is often where narcissistic or emotionally abusive people fall apart. Accountability is like kryptonite for those who live behind projection, denial, and manipulation. Your honesty threatens the illusion. And that's why when you begin to speak, they often push back harder, twist your words, accuse you of being dramatic or cruel, because your truth disrupts the version of reality that they've worked so hard to control. But that doesn't make your truth any less real, and it doesn't mean you're wrong to say it. You're not responsible for whether someone else accepts accountability, but you are responsible for whether or not you silence yourself to make them or others more comfortable. So here's a question. What if it's the end? This is often the fear that holds our truth hostage. What if saying this breaks it all? What if being honest means they walk away or that you have to? And it's a valid fear because, yes, sometimes the truth ends things. Sometimes it draws a line that cannot be uncrossed. Sometimes it pulls back the curtain and reveals that there's nothing left worth saving. But if the truth ends it, ask yourself, what exactly were you holding on to? A relationship that can't survive honesty was never rooted in safety, connection, or even love. It was built on control, illusion, or compliance. And while that might feel familiar, even comforting in its predictability, it is not the kind of bond that helps you grow. Truth doesn't always break things. Sometimes it rebuilds them. But even when it does cause an ending, It does not have to be the kind that destroys you. It can be the kind that sets you free. And the most loving thing you can do for yourself right now is set yourself free. Finding your voice again after silence, especially long, survival based silence, isn't like flipping a switch. It's awkward, it's shaky, sometimes it's terrifying. You might second guess every word, every pause, every ripple it causes. That's okay. That's part of coming back to yourself. Reclaiming your voice isn't always knowing the perfect thing to say. It's not about confrontation purely for the sake of it. It's about remembering that you are allowed to speak at all, that you don't need to earn permission to express your truth, that your needs, your emotions, your perspectives, they're not too much. They're not dramatic and they're not dangerous. They're simply yours. For those who have lived under emotional manipulation, narcissistic control, or chronic invalidation, speaking up feels radical, but it's also deeply restorative. Every time you say what you mean, even if it's difficult, you stitch another piece of yourself back together. You start building a life that's honest, not performative, one that is whole, not hollow. And here's the beautiful, quietly defiant thing: you don't need anyone's validation to do it. You don't need them to agree with you. You don't need them to understand. You just need to give yourself the space to speak. Even if your voice shakes, even if you fall apart, even if you cry, even if it's messy, that is still power and that is still healing. So here's the truth: it might not go how you hope. The person you speak to may not respond with grace or empathy. They may get defensive, they may disappear, they may twist your words. But if you feel safe and ready, say it anyway. Not because you expect someone else to change, that person to change, but because you refuse to keep betraying yourself by staying silent. Say it because it matters to you. Say it because clarity is kinder than pretending. Say it because your story deserves air and light, not darkness and shame. Say it if you can, because maybe, just maybe, someone hears you, you hear you, and that changes everything. There's nothing weak about choosing your truth over comfort. There's nothing reckless about asking for understanding, accountability, or closure. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel safe in your own skin again. If the price of peace is never speaking your truth, then was that peace ever real to begin with? Let's end today with this thought. Maybe your words don't only lead to endings. Maybe they're the beginning of something that was always waiting to rise from the rubble. Maybe truth doesn't just burn bridges, it can also build them. It is possible someone will hear you. Something can be mended, or maybe not. But you'll never know unless you speak. And even if nothing changes but pieces of you, that is enough. And that is everything. The truth doesn't always make things easier, but it will make things clearer. And from that clarity, you can finally start to live, not just survive. So say the thing. Say it even if it shakes. Say it because it's yours. I've been liking to do a little reflection prompt, journal prompt, however you want to word it, think about it, react to it. So, again, before we move on with our day, let's do a little bit of that. Let's take a moment to sit with this question: what truth have you been holding inside that's quietly asking to be spoken? It doesn't have to be shared today. But name it, write it, whisper it to yourself, give it a voice, even if it's just to yourself now. If you're more into a journal or a notes app kind of thing, think about writing something along the lines of this. If I were being completely honest, I would say ... And you can do this in your mind as well, or as a whisper. But let yourself finish that sentence without editing, explaining, or softening. Just let the words come and see what wants to be heard. Let me say that again. If I were being completely honest, I would say ... Think of a moment in your recent past, maybe where you stayed silent. What held you back? If you're in a moment of change, what might have changed? One last little bit, and this is a different ending for sure. And I'm going to sign off right at the end of this, I promise, because I feel like I'm all over the place, and maybe that's still just whatever's been going on with me lately, just lingering. So we're just going to do it. I liked the idea of this episode, and I feel like I always end and it's just never enough. But I turned this into a little poem as well. So I'm going to end today with a little poem, and maybe it'll inspire you. Maybe you'll like the words. Maybe you'll want to write something for yourself. Just something off the beaten path from our usual ending. Written by me, titled Say It Anyway. There are words that sit like stones in the throat, smooth, heavy, unspoken. They build little graves to false peace in the hollow space between people pretending not to break. You learn to hold your breath longer than anyone should. You dress your silence in kindness and call it survival. But inside, the truth rusts, a locked door, begging for keys you've convinced yourself don't exist. What if you said it? Not with a scream, but with a whisper that still shook the walls. What if it cracked something open? What if your voice was never meant to be buried under someone else's comfort? What if healing wasn't soft or sweet, but fierce, a wildfire that burns what never belonged to begin with? Say it. Say it even if it shakes. Say it with your whole trembling spine. Say it so your bones remember you are still alive. Because even if nothing changes but you, that is a beginning. Until next time, take care of you, Viv. Thank you for listening and spending time with me today. I appreciate you all so much. If you haven't already, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and follow me on social media. Your support means the world. Plus, it really helps a podcast grow and reach more people like us. And don't forget, I'd love to hear from you. Send me your questions, share your story, or just drop by to say hello at vivvance@gmail.com. Until next time, remember, healing isn't linear, life can be unpredictable, but you are never alone in this journey. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.